It's Thursday, 11 o'clock. It's time for this week's Watch Drop. The theme for this week is Masters of Modern Classicism. Now, that sounds like a cross between a very boring book and also some sort of university thesis. But let me explain what I'm talking about. The watches I'm going to run through today are modern watches, but that use sort of very traditional 19th and 20th century watchmaking. Now, I think you're going to really enjoy this. I'm certainly really looking forward to running through these watches with you. So let's jump into it. This time last week, I was in Geneva to see the new watches released as part of Geneva Watch Days. One of my favourite releases from last week was the Laurent Ferrier Classic Tourbillon in teal. That watch is very expensive, but wow, it's exceptional. And we're really lucky this week to have two other models by the watchmaker himself, Laurent Ferrier, and gosh, I'm excited to run through them. The first watch I'm going to talk about is the Laurent Ferrier Classic Traveller. Now, this is one of my favourite Laurent Ferriers and one of my favourite complications. I tend to travel quite a lot, and having two time zones is really, really useful. Having two time zones on a Laurent Ferrier is absolutely something that I aspire to own at some point in my collecting journey. So why do I like Laurent Ferrier, and what makes it a modern classic? Well, Laurent Ferrier is very, very design-led. You can tell a Laurent Ferrier from its design language from across the room. The use of now there's a certain name for the hands, but I can't remember what it's called, but I call them spear tip hands, but they're so beautifully finished. The curvature and the sort of ergonomics of the case are unmatched by anyone else. It's just a very organic feeling watch that you're very happy and comfortable to wear all day long. It's got some heft to it, but it's just so beautifully finished, and the design language is so consistent throughout the whole watch. And I think we misunderstand exactly how complicated that is to do. This isn't just a case of highly polishing everything. It is so consistently high quality that you've got this really, really beautiful transitions from curved to flat or highly polished, and very consistent throughout the top of the case and the bezel through the mid case and the case back. It's really amazing. If you haven't held a Laurent Ferrier at all, I implore you to seek one out and have a look at it, because it's very different to Patek Philippe's and Lange particularly, their approach to case design. But Laurent Ferrier is renowned for using in some of his watches a natural escapement, which is an extremely high precision escapement, which has very high efficiency, unlike your typical escapements you'll see in 90% of the watches here. It's a beautiful thing, and a really great example of modern watchmaking that uses an innovation that was created hundreds of years ago. I just think it's fantastic. It's that perfect crossover between contemporary and classic. I just think it's a very overlooked and very beautiful watch, and I long to have one of these in my collection. If you can't tell already, I'm really excited about today's theme. I love the sense that you have modern watchmaking, which is a continuation of the techniques that have been used for hundreds of years. And I love the fact that we've got all of that IP, all of that innovation that's carried through centuries of highly skilled craftsmen. And today, we have examples like this Laurent Ferrier, and also the next one that I'm going to come on to. The next Laurent Ferrier is one that was released last year in 2024. It's called the Classic Moon. And it's not just a moon phase complication, it also has an annual calendar. I've not seen one of these on the pre-owned market before. They might be out there, but certainly none have come to Subdial. So I'm really pleased to see this hit the market. What I love about this watch is the use of colour in the dial. It seems like a silly thing, but it's actually really difficult to get right. A sort of pearlescent silver silver dial with the use of the perfect blue to contrast for the moon and the indices around the periphery of the dial. And then you get that beautiful, highly polished rose gold case, and altogether it just works. It comes together in just perfection. I think I'm right in saying that this is Laurent Ferrier's first moon phase, and you certainly don't see many annual calendars from the brand either. So this is a bit of a first for the brand. And I think they've just hit it out of the park with it, frankly. In contrast to the previous Laurent Ferrier, this is a manual wind watch with a really subtly done power reserve on the back, really tastefully done. It's a very modern looking take on what is quite a traditional, particularly with the moon phase, characteristic and complication. It all comes together so beautifully well. It's almost poetic. And I love to see the use of complications in a brand that I just am increasingly enamored by. I think all the success that Laurent Ferrier is receiving, particularly this last week from their new novelty and in Geneva Watch Days, is so well deserved. And you can see how they've really continued to push the envelope over the last few years, and really since their inception in 2010. It's really exciting watchmaking from a really exciting brand. I'm so pleased that we have the next watch in the drop this week, because since it was released only earlier this year in 2025, I've been gasping to sort of see it. That sounds silly, but I'm going to explain why I'm excited about it. It's another great example of modern classicism, this time from Germany. Now, Moritz Grossman is a watch manufacturer that we've talked about before. You don't see many of them because they produce very few watches each year, but this is one of their newer limited editions, and it's called, this is quite funny, it's called the 37 Arabic because it's 37 millimeters in diameter and it has Arabic numerals. Germans aren't known for their creativity, but they are very well known for their finishing. So what do I love about this? Well, it's a steel case, and it's really interesting how they've changed the texture of the finishing on the side of the case or the mid case to have a sort of highly polished bezel and case back in the same way that Lange does actually. But this time it's much more rounded than you'd expect to see from A. Lange & Söhne. My favourite part of this watch is the dial, and the construction technique that they've used for this is to start off with German silver and then use what's called relief engraving, whereby you mill the dial down from an overall thickness to leave behind the outline of the numerals and actually the indices around the outside, the sort of railroad track that you see that represents the minutes and seconds. Now, that's a very difficult technique to use, and you get this finish that is just so good. This one is actually wrapped in a little bit of protective film, so there is a little kink in it, but the watch itself is absolutely mint. Lord knows how they've managed to achieve such a high precision and, I guess, quality. How on earth it works. Plus, the fact that in different lights, the dial is almost black and then brown and then silver. Very, very well done. Now, Moritz Grossman, as well as A. Lange & Söhne, are known to engrave the balance cock, and this time it's achieved such an incredible finish. It's every bit as good as its neighbouring firm at A. Lange & Söhne. It is just second to none. I struggle to think of another brand that achieves a high finish like this. It's like an 11 out of 10 if I can call it that. The thing about Moritz Grossman, and particularly this watch, is that it is greater than the sum of its parts. If you look at the dial construction technique, which was so hard to achieve, you look at the case finishing, you look at the traditional techniques used in the caliber itself, all of these things on their own would be impressive enough just used in isolation. But when Moritz Grossman and actually Laurent Ferrier bring all of these techniques together and produce something that's just so much stronger than the competition, particularly elsewhere in glass shooter, but in Geneva and Japan, these watches are really that special. For me, it's a brilliant dress watch. It's both casual and smart and interesting and rare. What more could you want? When I think of modern classicism as a theme in watchmaking, really the poster child, the darling child of the industry is Patek Philippe. It's got so much history as a brand, and they continue to use techniques that they've refined over 100 years. It's a brand that doesn't always get it right, but we've got two examples here where I think they hit the nail on the head. Let's jump into the reference 5026G. I am a big fan, I think everyone knows, of the Calatrava 96. And this is a 90s version in the same family, but it uses a slightly different design language to that seen on the early Calatravas. I love the use of Breguet adjacent indices and Breguet-esque hands, and this watch has both of those things. And on a Patek, that's a good thing. It also uses some of the design language from its brother, I suppose, the reference 5000, in that the small seconds is slightly off-center at the 4 o'clock position. And I actually like that design language. I like the use of asymmetry. It sets it apart from the usual Calatravas, the 96 line, and makes it stand out as something that's really quite unique. I love the matte black dial. It makes the highly polished Breguet indices and hands jump out and give you really great legibility on a watch that's only 33mm in case size. There's an awful lot of watchmaking chops in something that's really quite diminutive. You know, Calatravas are known for having quite long lugs. Ever since the 96, those watches were small in case size but big in lug and wear so well, whether you're a man or woman or anyone that likes any size of watch. I think they punch well above their weight, and this is one of my favourites from Patek over all of the years of Calatrava design. It's a really great watch. I'm sure this one won't hang around because I might buy it. So the last watch I'm going to talk about is one that's actually quite closely linked to the previous 5026. Now, this is the reference 6000G, and specifically this is the blue dial variant. I think they only made this for a couple of years, and it's always stood out to me as a really fun and creative Calatrava, purely because of the use of sunburst blue with white indices and all of the printing on the dial is that really lovely contrasting white, crisp white. I think this strap pairing is fantastic. I'm responsible for that, actually, so I would say that. But this is a larger case size. It's now gone up to 37mm, and the lugs are actually much bigger, and they feel bigger than on the 33mm case size. So you could almost assume that this watch was more like a 39, almost 40mm. And that's a very modern size, but it still has the 4 o'clock small seconds. This time, though, they've added a peripheral date, which gives you even more complexity and interest to the dial. And another colorway, you've got a sort of red horseshoe that hugs the date on the outside of the dial as it spins around through the course of the month. So what's modern classic about this watch? Well, it's from 2017, and actually the design language from this harks back to the 90s when Patek Philippe were seeking a partnership with, of all companies, Ferrari. And the design used in the gauges on a Ferrari back then, I actually forget which models, I think it's the 250 or something like that, had exactly the same font and hand type as is used on this watch. And I think that's really interesting. The partnership came to an end before the watches were produced, and that was because Patek chose not to put the horse, the Ferrari emblem, slap bang on these watches. And instead, Patek found that Girard-Perregaux were more willing to sacrifice the real estate of their dials and stamp the horse on their dials. But I love the fact that Patek Philippe saw the design and thought, to hell with it. We're going to push these out anyway because it's brilliant design. Again, another perfect marriage of old and new. This watch is very special. It's very overlooked, and I think it's quite rare when it comes to overall Patek production numbers. It was only produced for a couple of years, and these don't come up very often. It's a very special watch. This week's drop is, genuinely speaking, one of my all-time favourites, and it's a theme in modern classicism that really is the fundamentals of why I like collecting watches. In today's digital age, where we've got phones and Apple watches and laptops everywhere, I like traditional watchmaking because it's based around hundreds of years of hand craftsmanship, of skills that have passed down through generations. And these watches that I've run through today are the modern interpretations of that skill that still continues throughout all of those years of evolution. And I think it's fascinating how the market has really continued and almost increased its enjoyment of that aspect of watches and the industry that celebrates that craftsmanship. It's what watchmaking is about, and it's what luxury is about, and I'm here for it. So that's this week's drop. Over £1 million hitting the site and some of my all-time favourite references. Do go hit the website, find yourself a modern classic, and let me know which one's your favourite, and I'll see you next week.